Hello, welcome to the 8th day of October 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, a live video exercise that I do every morning at around 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the various challenges and opportunities that I met. I go over the 8 objectives of my creed and one of the principles, and then I prepare for the coming day. So with that, let's get started. First, welcome to new subscribers to the channel. It's good to have you here. I'm Kurt. I'm a 61-year-old retired American living here in Shizuoka City, Japan, with my Japanese wife, Yumiko. We have a grown daughter, Emily, lives up in Tokyo and doing her thing. I've been retired now, working on something between 10 and 11 months now, so closing in on my first year anniversary of freedom, so to speak. And that's been quite a journey of its own, that the experience and the challenges of learning to be free have factored greatly into my videos, my talks, my meditations here throughout the last almost a year now. This is a personal journal that you're watching, but you're welcome to watch, and you're welcome to leave comments and criticisms as you see fit. I don't read or respond to comments, though, typically until I'm done. That way I can keep my chain of thought going, my flow going, so to speak. But I do look forward to reading comments. It's my favorite part of doing this. It's the unexpected thing. When I first started doing this, I didn't realize that that would become the case, that having the chance to interact with people, especially regulars on a daily basis, would be such a fun part. So let's get into it. Hold on, I have a little more disclaimer to do. I do, since this is a private journal, private public journal, but it is private to the extent that my ambition goes no further than my effort to explore my own life. Because what is the purpose of a good journal? A journal is a confidant that you can, it's a vehicle by which we can communicate with ourselves, hear our thoughts written down, and then reflect upon them. That's what this is for me, but I'm doing it in a video form. And as such, I am open and able, willing, and capable of talking about any subject that I want. And there's a few subjects that come up pretty reliably, namely death and my own plans for death, that reliably make people uncomfortable. So heads up, that might happen. Also, a huge thank you to my YouTube members, my Patreon supporters, and those who watch my videos. Your support and encouragement really do help to motivate me in what I do here in Japan now as a content creator. Okay, let's get into it. My first note here, and I keep notes, says for the last 24 hours section. So I typically do 4 or is it 5 sections every morning when I do this. Greeting and disclaimer, last 24 hours, reviewing the creed, or at least the objectives, and then the coming day, and then comments. So the next part is the last 24 hours. And I have one note here, and it says, test run. And then in quotation marks, I know exactly what this is referring to. Sometimes I don't realize what my notes from the preceding day refer to, but I know what this is. Yesterday was very interesting insofar as it was the first day that the weather was cool enough, and I had the new dog stroller set up properly, that I took little Rudy, my white dog, out for a long walking in Japan stroll. Something that I have ambition might become another version of what I used to do when I lived in Japan prior as a content creator, and I did something called walking in Japan, which is me wandering around the countryside. Only thus, walking the dog in Japan would be more urban in its nature, and me and Rudy in our stroller wandering around the urban landscape, which is rich and chock full of interest, experiencing all of that. And I did just that, and it went well. The only reason that I'm saying is because it wore me out. It had a bigger influence. It wasn't like when I was in my 40s and I could go out and go for a long hike in the mountains and come back a little weary, but then a good sleep would, get me back on my feet. Well, actually, I had a good sleep and I am back on my feet. But I did feel exhausted in the afternoon. But I'm thinking that that was more related to the heat. The immediate hours after lunchtime were pretty damn hot. Well, that might be it. Maybe as it gets cooler still, it'll be better. And as I improve my physical fitness. But it went well. But no, the good thing was, it was all good. But the amazing thing was the capacity that I now have to experience this is unlike anything that I remember during my walking in Japan years. Back then, when I would take a Sunday off every 2 weeks and go into the mountains and explore, there was kind of a rushed and hurried feel to it all. Like I had to squeeze in a whole bunch of fun and adventure. Well, it wasn't really fun that I was after. It was exploration. It was pressing the envelope. It was kind of like seeing what's behind the veil. That's what I was after. But I had a limited amount of time, a single day, less than a day, to squeeze it in, and then had to wait another 2 weeks. Now I can do this every day if I want, for as long as I want, in any capacity that I want. And that, through the last 10 and a half months of training, has yielded a perspective and a mind that is softened, not in a little bit in capacity and horsepower, but softened in its expectations. And I'm going to pull out 2 instances that I wrote about in my journal this morning. The 2 instances were, and I took a deliberate walk down by the school where I used to work, because it's not because I wanted to go by the school, but because it's a nice area. I didn't go right in the school, the vicinity of the school. I kind of went around it deliberately because there were too many kids in the afternoon. Although the kids weren't out. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point was that twice during that walk, I found myself doing stuff that I have never really ever done in my life, which was to stop in the midst of it all and just soak it all up. Like, have you ever seen like an old man that's like just leaning on a fence, staring at nothing? I have. Sometimes you wonder, especially if it's on a weekday, what's going through their mind? Well, now I know, because I did that yesterday, literally. I was going along a factory. It's a cosmetics factory, and they have a kind of a grimy infrastructure of concrete, and there's like railing next to the sidewalk in a busy street, Route 1, lots of traffic, and a big factory making lots of noise. And there's a little like a culvert down below. But that culvert, and I've walked past that culvert hundreds of times in my past life living here. That culvert is actually quite lovely. In fact, I remember in the past noticing it was lovely, but being too busy to stop. But I stopped yesterday and I checked it out, and there was a little bit of water, what appeared to be very clear. I don't know how clean it was, but probably pretty clean given that the little biome down there seemed to be very healthy. Water flowing from a drain pipe into the culvert, which is green, and it was as beautiful and green and lush with plant life and insects. You could see the little dragonflies and stuff as any woodland stream, right there in the middle of the urban setting. And unlike 10, 15 years ago when I was in the height of it all, and I would have been walking back and forth to work on my mind if I was going to work, exhaustion on my mind, and the thought of a beer then for dinner time if I was on my way home, but none of that because I was on my way nowhere. And I just stopped. I put the brake on the thing with the dog, and I just leaned over the edge, like the old man that I mentioned. And it just sat there, and I looked at it all. And with my clear eyes, now that I've had my surgery, listening to the sound, picking up the sound of the gurgling stream from the roar of the traffic and the sound of bicycles and pedestrians walking by, and the hum of the factory a little further beyond. And as I did that, after a while, I realized, look at what you're doing, Kurt. You're living in a way that you've never really done before. Maybe not since childhood. Maybe not even then. The second incident was a little later in the same walk when I ran across an apartment building that was a picture perfect, like a time capsule from the Showa period from the 1960s or the 70s, lifted out of the time capsule and plunked down straight, and the lighting was perfect, and the atmosphere was great, and it was a quiet street, and no one was around. And I, again, set the brake on the dog walker, and I just soaked it up. Both of those instances are featured in today's Retiring in Japan upload, which is rendering right now. I'll release it as soon as I'm done with it. The interesting thing was, it looks like I'm up to the job of walking the dog in Japan. This new vehicle, pun intended, seems to be an effective one. Surprise, surprise, I've become someone that I didn't know I ever was. What is this person that I've become who can seem to relish with the savor of youth, yet have the time and the inclination to not rush of old age. Nice combination, if you can get it. And another reason why I'm so glad that I retired when I did, as I feel that this capacity, is a failing capacity. You know, like I said, my ability, even if I have the inclination and the want, my ability to actually go out there and sustain myself in such a long walk like that may decrease over time. Although maybe if I keep it up, maybe if I really push myself, maybe if I make that part and parcel of my days, that won't be the case. As I planned to. Yesterday, it was the first day I told my wife, I won't be having lunch with you. I'll be having my lunch out and about. And I did. It was a good day yesterday. It was the first day of walking the dog in Japan. All right, as for my creed, it consists of 8 objectives as follows. To be always ready to die, to make good and effective use of my time, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles, to cultivate good emotional reactions, to perform good actions relative to my values, to recognize my true limits and true opportunity, and to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. As for the creed's principles, I'm going to read today the Home of Good and Evil, which you may recall that in the last couple of days I've been talking about, I really could use that little buncheon over here. In the last couple of days I've been talking about, the principles I've been talking about were the Homunculus 2 days ago, followed by the Anchorhold yesterday, followed by the Home of Good and Evil today. And I placed those 3 principles deliberately. So this is the kind of stuff that you don't get if you read the book, because I don't comment on the reason I placed the principles the way they did. I placed them there for a reason. The Homunculus says, I don't have a soul, or it comments on the observation that it doesn't seem that I have a soul. But what I do have is this consciousness that I cannot seem to deny, that is the very thing that's assessing itself. So whatever this consciousness is, which I imagine is just an emergent consequence of biochemistry that seems to be operating right behind my forehead here, a little bit behind and above my eyes, that homunculus, as I name it, the little man within, lives within, number 2, the Anchorhold, which is the cranium, the trap, the place where you can't get out, that food and water have to be offered in through the mouth, and the waste products taken out, just like an anchor right in their Anchorhold. And number 3, then, if you follow my visualization here of the man trapped within and the trapping cranium, 3 is the home of good and evil. Now what I imagine is, just as I have my little library behind me of important volumes, the homunculus will have within the Anchorhold their catalog of what they consider to be right and wrong, aka good and evil. And let's never mind the distinction between right and wrong and good and evil. They are distinct. Let's just use those words interchangeably. Whatever the homunculus considers to be right and wrong or good and evil exists with the homunculus within the Anchorhold. The importance of that is that it doesn't exist out there. This concept of objective good, objective evil, that some things may just be right or just wrong by virtue of the nature of the universe, I don't abide that. I don't believe that that's the case. I have no good reason to think that what I think is right is somehow written amongst the stars. Certainly not etched into a stone anywhere, other than what may be some man or woman etched into granite to put on a courthouse wall. Instead, what we have is right and wrong as instantiations of best practices within our minds that we then refer to, and become our code of conduct and decision making. This is the code that we have, the creed that we abide, the epistemology that we use to sort out right from wrong, from good from evil, from correct from not correct, and what is true from what is false. These things, these tools, this equipage resides inside inside the Anchorhold and is managed by the Homunculus. That's why I put the home of good and evil after those first two. The first one, the Homunculus, is the consciousness that abides, that assesses, that considers, that reflects, that determines, that senses. The Anchorhold is the place in which it happens, and the home of good and evil is where good and evil, right and wrong reside. Let's go ahead and read it. The home of good and evil. And I have a quote from Aristotle. Now it's on page 254 of the hardbound edition of Going Alone. The home of good and evil. And Aristotle's quote, activity in accordance with virtue is virtue. Here we go. The home of good and evil. A catalogue of right and wrong maintained by that little mortal within my head, containing both opinion and judgment, and suggestive of a platform of subjective responsibility. The homunculus owns this list and has the responsibility to develop and vet its contents, as well as reconcile these with the reasoned opinion of others. So you have to, a good homunculus will, using the principle of war, wage war against their own ideas, their own values at all times, while also waging that war against the values proclaimed by others, and also listening to the admonitions of others regarding our own values. Taking that in as worthy counsel as we see fit. Good and evil then become perspective and opinion, dangerously subjective. Yet, and that's the part that I think a lot of people, push back on me about, is the subjective part, right? So, in fact, it comes down to, someone just asked me that recently. So it's all just a subjective, right and wrong are just your subjective opinions. Yes, I do think that that's the case. I don't think there's any objective right or wrong that we can turn to, other than perhaps the closest thing that might be is the seeming objective mandate to reproduce and make children. That seems to be a kind of a good part and parcel and wrapped up in the very nature of life itself. Inseparable from it. But more of a mandate towards survival than anything else. Chemical reactions keeping themselves going. Argument and discussion are the tools of reconciliation when such opinions differ, and consensus reached in this way has more authority and force than the proclamations and commandments of 1,000 fictitious gods. My little jab at what I consider to be the more lazy, if I can use that term, because I think it is. More lazy activity of just onboarding the prefabricated creed of another, right? So just taking it on board and abiding it because tradition, opinion, authority, says that these things are true. None of those are good reasons to believe. Good reasons are good reasons to believe. Okay, that's enough of that. As for the next 24 hours, well, it's going to depend on the weather. I've got this book I need to sign. And it's not that I don't want to sign it. I want to sign it. I just want to do a good job. But I think if it's going to be another kind of a warm day like yesterday, today might be the right day to do it. And I might not go for a walk. Or I could do a little bit of a walk. I could sign first and then go for a walk. And in the maybe a late afternoon walk. Maybe. I'm not so sure what I'm going to do today. It's one of those two things. I'm either going to work on the book or I'm going to go for a walk. It'd be better to work on the book. And again, it's not because I'm pushing the book working back because I don't want to do it. It's just that I want to do it when I feel the muse around me, right? You know what I mean? Let's read comments. Okayama Ray says, hi Kurt, 23 degrees and 41%, another beautiful day. And over here it's 20 degrees and 80%. 20 degrees and 80%. And let's see, now let's take a look at what it was like yesterday at this time. Yesterday was 22 degrees and 60%. That doesn't bode well. If it's at 80% and a little cooler, I might just stay and try to work on the book. I have a couple of things I want to do in the room too. Hello, Tim. Weather check for the UK at 9:45 p.m. is 13.2 C and 82% humidity. Calm, quiet day. The storm has passed. Her Amy has passed, huh? Robert says hello to myself, Ray, Tim, and notes that in Napanee, Ontario, Canada, it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit, 97% humidity, and an AQI of 30. The air has gotten better since yesterday, huh? Do you know, I was looking at the air AQA. I never really monitored that, but I was looking at my weather app the other day here, and the AQI was something like 2. I was like, is that possible? But I do notice that, like I was telling Yumiko the other day, things don't get dusty here. They just go. The air seems to be very clean. But 2? That seems like abnormally clean. Robert says, I'm not bragging. I hope that doesn't come across that way. I'm startled because the whole concept of measuring AQI, even though I see some of you doing it every day, isn't something that I do. Mostly because I don't have an easy way to do it. My little wall-mounted thermometer doesn't tell me the AQI. I have to look it up. I wonder if I can look it up right now. Let me look it up right now. Let's see what it is. Let's see if when I saw that too, maybe if I misread it, if it was a fluke or what. Let's see if I can even find it. It was in the weather app. Okay, today's going to be, it's going to be hot. It's going to be 80, and there's going to be rain today. There's going to be rain today? The rain is going to come, tonight at 10 p.m. Let's see, air quality is, no, it's 36. I must have misread that. That sounds more normal. 2, never mind what I said. Clearly, I was reading something else. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to where I was. And then, so thanks for chiming in with your weather, Robert. Tim says hello to Robert. Ray says hello to Robert and Tim. Tim says hi to Ray. Evelyn, hi Evelyn. Says hi to myself, Ray, Tim, and Robert. Tim says, one of the biggest things I've found in retirement is my powers of observation have become much more focused. You have that time now to soak things in. It's really quite pleasurable, Tim. Tim says, yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking too. There was that moment, I was on the street yesterday. Did I already say this? I was on the street yesterday pushing the dog cart, and then there was a little stream down there, and the factory stream. And I'm going to go fast because I may be repeating myself. And I stopped and I set the brake, and I leaned over the edge, and I just stood there watching the water going by, a stream that I had walked past hundreds of times in the past life and never stopped to give it a good look-see. But I did, and then the cars were zipping past, people going by on bicycles, people walking by, probably thinking, well, that guy's going to be late to work, right? And but it's really because now I'm liberated to observe, and it's really a wonderful thing. Evelyn says, was on my way to nowhere. I like that. Sounds like the title of a book, huh? I like that too. Tim says, hi, Evelyn. Hello to Evelyn. Robert says, hi to Evelyn. Marmighty, hello to you. Marmighty says, I wonder if the trope on the wise old man is just because they don't have to think too much about work and other things. I think you're right. Robert says, hello to Marmighty. Marmighty says, hello to Robert. Tim says, I think so. I now realize how much the work world was in many ways your entire world, as you were spending most of your waking hours in that environment, constantly thinking about it. Now that's gone. The mind is, so to speak, freer. I think you got it. And I'm kind of like following your lead there, Tim, with the thoughts you're saying. So when I say, I think you've got it, I'm like some guy walking behind you going, I think you're on the right path. Yeah, I think I like where you're taking us. I like, because you're kind of our senpai showing us the way, Tim. Marmite says, it may also explain meditation and isolation being some form of enlightenment. Interesting thing to explore. Ooh. Marmite says, going alone, I guess, would be another facet here. Oh, that's true. Going alone would be another facet here. Yes, because uh, that's because you're going without hashtag distraction or less hashtag distraction. Back to the point about how people want to go hiking with me, and I'm like, no, I don't want to take you hiking with me because then I can't see the nothing because I'm too busy jibber jabbering talking to other people, right? Uh, Tim says, I think the isolation is for many the biggest fear when contemplating retirement, whereas I find the more time to choose to be in isolation is for the more time to choose to be in isolation is for me quite fulfilling. Whoops, relaxing, and fulfilling and relaxing sounds strange, Tim. It sounds paradoxical, huh? Erica, hello, Erica. Hi, all. Erica says, hope everyone enjoys a good morning, day, and evening. Go ahead, Ollie. Ollie's coming to join us. Amy has Amy has long gone. That's Hurricane Amy or Tropical Storm Amy, whatever it was. I think it went over Scandinavia. Robert says, Kurt, the AQI here is normally between 0 and 2. The recent forest fires did it. So, okay, so 2 isn't an abnormality. So it's the forest fires that we're doing it, huh? There's Rudy. Claude, hi, Claude. Greetings to y'all from Charlotte, North Carolina, on my way back to Texas. We will be in Nagoya next week. Wow, how nice. Well, have a safe and pleasant flight, Claude. Robert says, hi, Claude, and to Erica. And Erica says hello to Robert. Marmite says AQA is a little north of Manchester is 21 right now. Robert says a song memory rain by the Cult. Whiskey, hello Whiskey, good to see you. It's been a while. Morning mate, your voice is so low. How about taking a trip to Bic Camera and getting a remote mic? Oh, you have one. Time for an upgrade. Actually, this is a really, really good mic. It's brand new. And it's just me. I'm talking low because I don't want to. I got the window open and I don't want to wake the neighbors up. Maybe I should do this. Like all the trendy social media people do it, right? Because this will be better, right? This is better quality. Maybe it's time for me to step up my game and be like all the young folk, the young, people. Because you notice they do this. My daughter was talking about that, and my wife was talking about it too. They were saying, why are all the young people that making YouTube videos on social media holding their mics? Well, maybe now we know. Hopefully the quality is better. Robert says hello to Whiskey. Act 98006. Haven't seen you in a while. Kurt, do you plan any trips in the near future? Say back to the USA or somewhere distant in Japan? Say Hokkaido. It seems like you have been sticking close to home since moving back to Japan. Act 98006. I don't have any interest in travel like that anymore. So I don't think I will. I do have a desire eventually to travel with my wife. I've done a lot of travel, and a lot of travel, especially in Europe. And I used to do it on business, and I saw a lot of great places. And I want to take my wife to see all the places that I've used to go to, and I also want to explore new places with her. But I have zero interest. I mean, it's below zero interest in, for example, going someplace like I don't want to go to Thailand. I don't want to go to Russia. I mean, these are all places in the past that I always wanted to visit. I just don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere in Japan. I'm really, really just enjoying my simple little life here. So no, yeah, no interest in going to America or anything. Mate, Whiskey says the yen is now 151.9. Don't think it's going to recover too soon. I keep my assets non-yen for sure. Wow, it went up about it's that I knew it had gone over 150, but wow, it's almost 152. Robert says hello to Act, and I'm just going to call you Act. You're a longtime friend of the channel. I know you forever, but it's hard to say the whole thing. PF, hey Softy P, looking forward to. Oh, it's good to see you, PF. I recognize your name. Looking forward to more content with your channel, Secret Weapon and Superstar Rudy. Yes, Rudy is my trusty sidekick and the star of the show. Robert says hi to PF. Marmite says, Kurt, have you noticed any different feelings to visitors in Japan? I'm wondering if this is a city thing. Wouldn't want to uproot to be a pariah. There's really no visitors to where I live, so the only increase in foreigners that are here are the fact that they moved us a trade school to this part of the city. So I see more like trainees, foreigners that are coming here to go to school. But there's almost no um, tourists where I live. I mean, very very rare to see a tourist here. So forever, haha. And then the question, I think you're asking, is that going to be forever? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I might change. Maybe I'll change. I just really, really like my settled life now. I'm kind of like, um, I feel like I've had enough of travel. I mean, even in Japan, I don't even want to go to the next prefecture over. I mean, if my sister-in-law and my wife say, "Hey, let's go to the next prefecture over and have tea at a nice old tea shop," I'm like, "Oh, I'm all for it." If it's somebody else's idea. As for me, no, I don't want to go anywhere. Don't want to go to Tokyo. Don't want to go to. I don't want to go to Mount Fuji. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to enjoy my little life here. Take little walks around the neighborhood. Maybe once in a while, drive up into the mountains and hike a little bit, just a little bit. But no, I don't want to go anywhere. Ray says the yen is volatile right now because of certain uncertainty with Sane Takeichi and the U.S. government being shut down. There will likely be correction up down once they both resolve. Marmite says maybe Ray would know more being Tokyo based. Maybe. What do you Well, Ray isn't you're talking about Okayama Ray? I think Ray's in Washington State. Um, Act says, what is Yumiko's opinion of Sanai? I don't know. We don't talk about politics. Evelyn says, wondering if you ever bump into the guy Martin on the Martin show. He is a fellow New Yorker. I haven't. I don't know. I think he might be back in Japan now. He lives in like another part of Shizuoka Prefecture, over the mountains and across the Oigawa, if he still lives there. I know he's back. I think he's back in Japan right now. We've talked a couple of times. We've even talked about possibly me getting together sometime, but I don't think I wouldn't bet that he and I would ever meet. Marmite says, "Oh, I'm mistaken, Ray." Well, I think Ray used to live in Japan, or maybe will come back to Japan, but I think right now they're in Washington. Whiskey says, "Much better now. I don't mind if you put it on your collar. It's just we can't really hear you and have to max the volume." I see. Okay. Well, maybe it's better that I do it this way. Between Ray says, between Western Washington and Okayama, was stationed by Tokyo for 7 years, though. Tim says, it's funny in retirement that once you find that relaxing vibe, you kind of want to hold on to it. Traveling can be fairly stressful. Tim, you are my senpai. You always seem to understand the thing that I'm trying to comprehend. And maybe it's because you literally are my senpai. Senpai, the word senpai means the one who has gone before, right? Picture someone who's a little further along the trail, has seen the landmarks, because I'm working my way through like this thing about I have no interest in travel. You know, you're right, Tim. I think that's it. Travel involves, you know, dealing with small little problems and issues. And sure, it's fun, right? But you have to challenge it and stuff. And I don't want any of that stuff. I mean, I'm really enjoying this simple life. I mean, it's like, you know, I could quote Emerson, but I won't, because it probably would come across wrong in this context. But I just feel like I just don't want I don't want any of that. I mean, what I could enjoy in going to another prefecture is isn't as much as I could enjoy just staying at home. Whiskey says, new prime minister, let's hear her speak in front of an audience. Not sure she has that much charisma as the leader, frankly, but at least she's against the new woke movement. Evelyn says, traveling is stressful and I don't enjoy rushing around, but I do like to settle into different cultures for months at a time with my books. Now that's an interesting perspective, right? Going there for a decided purpose, right? Just be, I could see yourself going there for like, for some cultured reason, right? Yeah. Elvina, hello Elvina. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's a rainy day here and starting to cool down, but still humid. All right, well, I think I made it through the comments. I'll go ahead and sign off for today. Thank you for joining me, everybody that did. I really do appreciate it. I wish you all the best. Remember, I do have the Discord office hours from 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. It's half an hour every day, Monday through Friday. So far, I haven't spent a single Discord office hour alone. Someone has come by every time. And I've had really nice talks. I had a great talk with David yesterday who came by. David, if you see this, I hope that all went well with your, I hope you don't mind me saying, I won't say what kind of exam, but the exam you took today or yesterday, I hope it all went well. I look forward to hearing the results. Anyone is welcome to join me. The Discord environment is very different from this. In this case, you're just listening and seeing me, and we're responding to one another's comments here. In Discord, it's more like a Zoom meeting, and it's like Hollywood Squares, and everybody's there. And so if you come join me there, then we can actually talk face to face. It's kind of fun. So if you don't know how to get there, just send me an email, dinnerbytheriver@gmail.com, and I can help you out. Marmite says, have a good day to all. Tim says, on my last day at work, the biggest questions asked were, will you be traveling the world? It made me feel awkward in a way I don't feel like it. In a way, as I don't feel like it too much. I think that's what the assumption is. You hear so many people on the cusp of retirement, or that you ask them, what would you do in retirement? And they say travel. I think because travel is kind of like it's like a default answer, right? And sure, it's fun. I mean, sure, a lot of people, they've been putting it off all their life, right? But for some of us, it sounds like you and me, Tim, um, and Evelyn is one of those who's found a unique application of travel. And I'm not saying that travel for its own sake isn't good, but it's just like for some of us, it's kind of lost its luster, you know? And yeah, just read Emerson, okay? Read what Emerson has to say about travel and self-reliance, which I've got right here. I won't read it. I promise you I won't read it, but I just want to pull it out for a very interesting perspective on the question of travel. Read Ralph Waldo Emerson's Self-Reliance. It's one of the books in my shelf of 18 books, which I think speak to everything. And I think if Evelyn, if you read it as well, you would see also that Emerson would say what Emerson is talking about is that travel for its own sake. If you've got an ulterior motive to your travel, then that's quite a different thing. Elvina says, good afternoon. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm fine. I'm reading your stuff again. Elvina says, thanks for the company, everyone. You're welcome. Robert says, hi to Elvina. Thank you, Robert. Marmite says, I would love to join office hours, but that would be 2 a.m. for me. Might power through, though, through today or fall asleep. Okay. Maybe I should add another office hour in another part of the day. Have a wonderful day, Ray says. Marmite says, I see many people have the opposite feelings, that they regret not traveling when they're older and don't have the patience or energy. Elvina says, hello, Robert. And Penguin Tim says, sort of have the travel t-shirt. Sort of have the travel t-shirt, LOL. Evelyn says, Seneca says, wherever you go, there you are. And there you are. Take care, everybody. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye. Seneca gets the last word.